Hey, Leading Hope community. A little bit of a different start to the podcast over this month. I'm so excited. This month, I have a book coming out, and it's very different from the content of this podcast. This is not a leadership book. It's about faith, how people lose it, what happens when faith has been left behind, and how to rebuild it. The book is titled Reconstructing the Rubble. It doesn't release nationwide until March, but if you want to be a part of the launch team, you can go to behope.church/book to get an early copy of this book and help us get the word out to others. Thanks so much for being a part of this, and here is our Leading Hope podcast.
Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to share on social media and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, we'll go ahead and let you do that right now. It would mean the world to us if you did that. Also, post about it, rate and review. You will not believe how that helps get this podcast in so many more leaders' hands like yours, and we thank you every week for doing that. Today, we continue our series on capacity. I am pumped. Episode 45. Comfort and pain. Kevin Jack.
Comfort and pain.
Bring the pain.
So
bring the pain.
When I titled this episode, I kept thinking like the Christmas Carol of the Comfort and Joy. Which one is that?
I don't know. You should sing it for everyone.
It feels like Joy to the World.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joy to the World. This is not Comfort and Joy.
It's not.
This is Comfort and Pain.
Comfort and pain.
That's this episode.
It reminds me of the R&B song Joy and Pain from back in the day.
Joy and Pain. I was never a big R&B guy.
Joy and Pain. I don't know what I'm talking
There
about.
you go. You got it.
Yeah, we're good.
So, this is part 2 in our series on capacity. And we're using it as the metaphor for this series of your life is like a container. It's filled with all these blocks of different shapes and sizes. Normally what happens when the container starts to get full, we start throwing blocks out. Because we go, oh, I don't like how this feels. My life is too full. And say, hey, instead of just getting rid of blocks and doing block management, you might be, we should have used that in the last episode.
That was a great title, Kevin.
Ugh. We should expand the container. You have the possibility. That's not to say you should just always work more, do more, or work harder, or go faster. That is not what this is. It's saying, like when you were a kid, you could develop your capacity and you were capable of more than you thought. That may be true of you now.
Yes.
Even if you're middle-aged, even if you're a senior adult, even if you're young in your job, you may be able to do more. So this is what I want to do. Is I originally put all this content kind of in the backwards order. I wanted to explain the ideas and then give you a bunch of examples. But as I'm looking at it more and more, I realize, hey, it'd be better off. I just want to share 3 different stories. And then I want to give you some content, and then we'll talk back and forth in terms of how this applies. So I played high school basketball. My illustrious basketball career ended in the 9th grade. That's right. You're impressed. I know you are.
Does that count as high school basketball?
Oh, that hurts.
I mean, I'm just asking.
That just hurts.
I'm just asking. It's just a question.
All right. I played freshman basketball,
high school.
which was in our high school.
That's high school basketball.
I wasn't even trying to overinflate it. I was just letting everybody know.
I'm just asking.
So we did conditioning. All the high school did conditioning together. And we did line drills.
Suicides.
See, we didn't call it. We weren't allowed to call it that by then. That's
Really?
what, yeah.
That's how much older I am than you.
That's what PC culture had invaded in that small window of time.
What do they call them now?
We had line drills, but for us, it wasn't like the short, then to the mid, then 3/4, then full. They just made us run up and back the whole way. So we'd have to do, I forget the exact number. I want to say we had to do 30s, which you had to run up and back 6 times in 30 seconds. And then I don't remember.
I'm already getting sick.
Yeah, there it was. And so you go through that, and we'd start, and like you do it and do it and do it. And especially during conditioning, you kept going. And then you thought you were going to die. And I can remember being a freshman, and there's juniors and seniors in the room. And I'm thinking, like, you've got 2-3 extra years on me. Like, I feel like I am the least equipped person here to do this. And then you'd feel like you're going to die. And then the coach would say, again. And could you imagine in that moment looking at your coach and being like, Coach, I'm burnout.
Yeah.
Coach, I'm like, Coach, seriously, I'm burnout. Like, you would puke and then you get back on the line.
Yeah.
And that was developing capacity. Another example. So that was a physical example. Here's a little bit more of a work ethic and a mental one. So there was a time in my life where I was serving as the youth pastor and the interim pastor at our church. So I was filling in for the lead pastor while we didn't have one, and supposed to focus, especially then, on youth ministry. So before I was named the interim pastor, I was responsible for running our Wednesday night youth ministry program, which meant I had to design the service, had to prep the small group leaders, had to write a message, had to prep the small group questions. And I did that for 2.5 years. And then the interim pastor left, and we had a Sunday morning service and a Sunday night service. So I went from writing one message and one set of group questions a week, which felt like a lot to me. Like at the time, it felt like a lot. To all of a sudden, I had to write 3 different messages and 2 different sets of group questions in a week.
Yep.
And this is, and if you've written messaging before, you'll understand this. If you haven't written messaging before, like, it felt overwhelming. Like, it felt absolutely exhausting. And I was like, how on earth could I ever get this done? I felt like coming up with an idea a week was a lot. And now I had to have 3 different ideas. And I had a standard of quality. Like, I did not want to dip below I could have phoned it in, but I wasn't going to do that.
Yep.
And it was like, it felt ridiculous. And now, third story, okay, is we've got a good family friend. They've got 4 kids in their family. And at the time, we just had 1 kid. And we were just talking to her. We're like, how on earth do you manage having 4 kids? And she's the kind of parent that has 4 kids that, like, loved having 4 kids. Some parents of 4 kids are like self-loathing parents of 4 kids. They're like a walking testimony of never do this. We made a bad decision. Yep. She's like, she loved her family and she loved her kids, and they were having a blast. And we were asking her, like, how on earth do you do this? And her statement was, once you go from 2 to 3, you're outnumbered. And once you're at 3, you can't possibly work harder than you already are. She said, there's no more hours in the day.
Interesting.
Like, you're already maxed out. And so she says, when you go from 3 to 4, you learn how to parent through skill and not just additional effort. She says, because you have no other options. And so if your house is going to be sane, and your kids are going to grow up and be healthy, and if they're going to be responsible and they're going to develop, you have to learn how to parent through your skill as a parent and not just having more effort. So this is what we're talking about. The enemy of capacity is comfort.
Ooh.
The enemy to you developing capacity is your comfort.
People are stopping their cars right now.
This comfort is the way you're used to doing things, your typical pattern. This comfort is the responsibility that you're used to. This comfort is the way you think about things. Like, that's where the parenting one really comes in. I just need more time. I need more effort. I need to do this. I need more laundry. And to go, no. Like, there's a skill there. Yeah. It's the way you think about things. And also, this might be the pace you operate. Like, the pace at which you operate. I'm not saying you have to work more hours. You may need to change your pace within those hours. There's nothing worse than, like, I tell my kids to get somewhere. Like, all right, let's go. We got to hurry. Yep. They don't care.
Nope.
They're walking as slow as they could because they understand, like, hey, if I'm going to get this stuff done, which matters, I need to operate at a slightly faster pace. This is what I learned about pacing and how we think is what I especially learned during that season of going from 1 message to 3 messages a week. I understood how to study harder.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have time to study more. I understood some efficiency and effectiveness pieces to writing that would have always eluded me that I learned during that season. The enemy of capacity is comfort. And so this is the other side of that. The pathway to increase our capacity is pain. Now, this is what I originally wanted to do. I originally wanted to write discomfort because that sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
It'd be like, the enemy to capacity is comfort.
Oh, that's
the pathway
interesting.
to capacity is discomfort.
Yeah.
But discomfort in the moment is experienced as pain.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's what's happening there. And so the pathway to increase our capacity is pain. You will have to learn to do things a new way. You will have more responsibility than is easy for you to handle. Like when you first became an adult, and some of you are still doing the hashtag adulting thing, and you need to throw that out because that's killing your capacity in this moment.
Yeah.
But like when you first became an adult and you had bills felt overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't pay this, they're going to turn my water off? And that felt like so much pressure. Now you pay bills with ease, or you should. You'll have to learn new patterns of thinking. You may need to increase your pace. But it's to understand this. If we're going to increase our capacity, like comfort is the thing that is keeping your container the size that it is. Pain, or the feeling of pain, will be associated with that expansion of the container. And I want to give this one note, and then we'll talk back and forth about this, is pain is the pathway to personal growth. Whining is incompatible with personal growth.
Oh, man.
Like whining, if you're whining about the number of blocks in your container, you're never going to find new ways of operating, new ways of thinking, new levels of efficiency, and new ways of effectiveness. If you are complaining about the responsibility that has been handed to you, you have now gone into victim mode. And when we're in victim mode, we lose our creativity. If you're a martyr to the responsibility that someone else has put upon you, you are locked in at your present level of capacity. And it's not to say all pain is good. It's not to say all pain is healthy, because there's the difference that the pain that you work through and the pain that will cause you to be injured more. But the initial piece is to go, if you're going to be able to do more, if you're going to be able to accomplish more, before you're capable of more, you'll be overwhelmed. So the enemy to capacity is comfort. The pathway to increasing your capacity is pain.
That's it's so true. I have a story I'll share about that. Just
love to hear it
for a second. But before we do, I want to ask you a question about that story that you had for the mother of 3 that was in the 4, and you said something very interesting, which I think is so powerful. Is we increase capacity through new skills, but here's what we know. Learning new skills is generally painful.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And that's what stops us from creating the larger container and capacity, is because we know it's going to take so much time away from what we're currently in our comfort, right? That whatever we're doing.
That's exactly
and then
right.
we can't create the skill, which creates the capacity.
I tease, we've got a member of our staff who I love dearly. She types with 2 fingers. That's it. She's my keyboard instructor in like middle school said, don't hunt and peck. Like, don't do that. Get them on home row. But if you go back to when you first learned to type, you were so much faster with 2 fingers.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, you could fly. And then you're like trying to get the cue, and you're like pinky finger is like starting to convulse and stuff that because they weren't used to moving like that. But like, in the same way that we learn that in keyboard, someone learns to dribble with their left hand. It feels terrible. You go, just dribble with my right. I'm fine. I'll be good with that for the rest of my life. But that's true. As you're an adult, as you're in work, and if every single time someone gives you something, you just whine about it, you're never going to learn the new skill.
We see this right now with the pandemic, right? Through the last 5-6 months.
Oh, I am very intrigued and a little nervous about what you're going to say.
No, about with businesses in the corporate world, both in the corporate world and church world, is that we are in a place that we haven't been in 100+ years, and businesses are trying to figure out new innovative skills, really, for their employees to participate in order to increase their capacity, because they've got to hit the bottom line at some point, or they're going to lay people off.
Yep.
That's it.
And if you're just whining about the pandemic, you're not innovating at the same time.
It's exactly what it's a huge analogy for what's going on right now. The one thing I was going to say about for myself is when we talk about pain of capacity and trying to get, here's the thing that I think sometimes we forget when we're trying to set up our weeks or our months or however we're going to create our rhythms, which is another series you can check out, is that we, for me, I know what I need to get done for the week, right? Talking specifically about Be Hope Church, there are a lot of things we have right now that are very important, with a book launch that's coming out. We haven't talked about, but we will, with a store that's coming out for our church, some other items that we're doing, which takes a lot of tech, a lot of back end stuff. And here's the thing: there's a goal I want to hit at the end of each week, and this is what I want to get done by the end of each week. Right now, sometimes I think I don't want to get that much done, because that's going to make me do a lot more work in this week than I had already planned to do, which was already a lot, to be honest, right? But here's the thing that I've realized. If I increase my capacity, hit more than I wanted to, you know what happens? Is I actually get to have more time for the relationships, which is what I was doing the whole thing for in the first person. That's what I was doing. And I need to have relationships in my life, because that's part of my container. And if I do more work, that will open me up. The work on the front end opens me up for the relationship work that I want to be doing on the back end. But if I don't put that on the front end, then that just pushes the relationship building way down the line and may not even happen.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it happens all the time. And so I put the extra work in so that I can open up on the other end that relationship stuff that's really the soul-searching stuff that we're really trying to accomplish.
I think it's interesting. We all know people who are, I describe it as fake busy.
Yeah.
But like everyone feels busy.
Yeah.
But then there's some people that they're like, that they describe their life and, oh, I'm so busy. And you think like, oh my gosh, like I did all that before breakfast.
Yeah.
I'll go through. And we were at the playground one day, and there's this mom who walks into the middle of the playground looking in a panic. And she's like looking for her kids. And then she starts counting out loud, and she goes, 1. And then she sees the other one, goes, 2. Whew. I was like, 2? You don't get to count at 2?
Yeah.
But for her, it felt overwhelming.
Right.
And we all know people that we look at the spots in life and you go, your life feels like so much, but you know they can do more. And they may not know they can do more in the moment.
Yeah.
But you go through the difficulty, the discomfort, the hardship, and you have to do it in a way. And man, you have to accept it and change your narrative from I've got too much to I'm going through the difficulty that increases my capacity. That has to be the mental message that is repeated to yourself. Not the world is unfair and they keep giving me more, but no, I'm getting better and I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, we've got to change the narrative from I've got too much to I'm growing. Yeah, I'm growing. I'm getting better. You said describe the pain. You said you'll have to go through new things. You have to have more responsibility. Then it's easy for you. You have to learn new patterns of thinking. You have to increase your pace. Where does someone start with that way of thinking and planning to increase their capacity?
I think
and to get through the comfort and pain.
Yeah, I think the unique thing is we don't understand which one we need to hit until we take on more. Is that like desperation is the greatest breeding grounds for innovation.
Yeah.
Like that's just understood. And so you go, but before you push yourself, just say it like this. Some of you, you're not runners. You don't run. And so if you would go out and run, it would feel like death. And you would run for about 50 feet. And you go, oh, why am I doing this? This feels awful. This is all the further I could go. Just like morbid illustration. I apologize for my brain. What if someone was chasing you? How far could you run? How fast could you run?
Yeah.
Weightlifters, I listened to this podcast with this bodybuilder guy, and he goes, hey, if someone would give you $1,000 for every extra rep you could do, could you do any more? Because the answer should be, I'd have $0.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you should say.
Yeah.
But that's not true. And the thing that I think that we found is you can't just increase your pace to increase your pace because that feels silly. You can't just expand, like, I'm gonna do this. I think that as you take on more, you learn the skills that are needed to be able to do that extra level of responsibility.
So true, so good. You talked about desperation. I just remembered in some notes that I had not too long ago, and I can't remember where I wrote this down from, but it says desperation will open up doors that complacency will keep shut.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
That's powerful. So
We should put that in our notes.
Yeah. I don't know where it came from, though, so I'm probably quoting somebody. But hey, listen, is there something you want someone to come away with, episode 45, Comfort and Pain?
Before you're capable of more, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Before you're capable of more, you're going to feel overwhelmed. So switch the narrative from, they did this to me, to I'm growing, and you'll see that you can increase your capacity.
Oh, man, that's fantastic. Thank you guys for joining episode 45, Comfort and Pain. And listen, man, I hope you guys feel challenged by this series. I certainly do. We're challenging ourselves, I believe, just as much as we're challenging everybody else. So this is an incredible series. I'm loving it. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it would mean so much to us if you did that right now. And also post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that helps us get this in the hands of so many more leaders like you. And we love hearing your stories of how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story or you just want to send us a note, visit leadinghope.online. And we just love hearing from you guys. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.